Plate Tectonics by Sonia. Plate tectonics. Plate tectonics is a theory that combines continental drift and seafloor spreading. The theory states that the Earth's crust and part of the upper mantle are broken into sections called plates. Oceanic crust versus continental crust. Oceanic and continental crust are quite different. Oceanic crust is more dense than continental crust, and continental crust is less dense, and it's made out of granite. Divergent boundaries are boundaries that spread apart, creating a ridge or a rift valley, like the Mid-Atlantic Ridge and the East African Rift Valley. At Divergent oceanic crust ridges are formed, earthquakes and volcanoes occur. The most famous landmark that is Divergent oceanic boundary is the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. At Divergent continental crust, rift valleys are formed, and earthquakes and volcanoes occur too. You can find a rift valley in Africa at the East African Rift Valley. Convergent boundaries. Convergent boundaries is when two plates come together. Continental-continental collision. At continental-continental collision, mountains form. One example of a continental-continental collision is the Himalaya Mountains. Oceanic continental collision. At oceanic continental collision, you can find subduction occurring, and you can also find volcanoes and mountains forming too. You can see this at the Tamsin Sea between New Zealand and Australia. Oceanic collision. Oceanic collision, subduction, trenches, and volcanic islands are seen. At oceanic collisions, somewhere you can see this is the Aleutian Islands. Subduction and densities effect on subduction. Subduction is where one tectonic plate goes under another and the older or more dense plate goes down to the mantle. Density affects subduction because the more dense plate goes under the less dense one and into the mantle. If it's continental and continental plates, during subduction, the older plate goes underneath the younger plate. Transform boundaries. Transform boundaries is when two plates pass one another, creating earthquakes. The most famous example is San Andreas Fault. Convection currents and plate tectonics. Convection currents is the cycle plates go through that consists of them heating, rising, cooling, and sinking. The heat convection currents produce powers the movements of the plates. As the plates move, they interact. The interaction of the plates produce forces to build a mountain, create a volcano, and fuel earthquakes.